I couldn't think of an intro.
The Mario series was born in 2D, but these days, it'd be hard to remember that. In recent times, the series has focused so hard on the 3D games that I wouldn't blame you if Mario 3 slipped your mind. After the original Super Mario Bros., there were 5 more 2D Mario titles. 6 if you believe that the Lost Levels deserves rights. Obviously, these games were in 2D, because the Super Nintendo cries every time you force it to run 3D games. But after 1992's Super Mario Land 2, things changed. Super Mario 64 would bring the series into 3D for the first time, and just sort of killed off the 2D games for a while there. There were quite a lot of remakes and ports, and a pseudo-sequel to Mario 2 that was only released for the Satellaview and we won't acknowledge any further, but no new original 2D titles were released for over 13 years. But change was in the air as the DS and Wii era was beginning. Nintendo was starting to focus on a more casual audience, and recognized that 3D Mario didn't have as much of a general appeal, and knew it was time to revive the 2D style of Mario.
So, starting in 2006, the new Super Mario Bros. Franchise began, consisting of 5 games, acting as a revival in a new generation of Mario. Once very well-received titles, by 2013 and the release of the last one, people were sick of them, and by now I think everyone just hates them. I grew up with these, so I have a soft spot for them, and I always have. So, let's take a look back at New Super Mario Bros., starting with the original, and see if I'm wrong.
I always forget that New Super Mario Bros. Isn't a DS launch title. It just feels like one to me, even though it was 2 years after. Blame Super Mario World and my lack of consciousness in 2006. The game begins with Mario and Peach having a pleasant walk until, inclement weather! Then Peach gets kidnapped. Shocker. So, this is a 2D Mario game. You know how it works. Enter levels, stomp enemies, break blocks, grab coins and power-ups, and eventually get to the flagpole at the end to move on. Though immediately, just in the first level, there's a lot of new.
I'd sure hope so!
Up to this point, every 2D Mario had a pretty distinct art style, as developers innovated with the hardware available to them, and this game continues that tradition. NSMB combines 3D models and 2D sprites together, making this a quote-unquote 2.5D game. Combine this with Mario's new moves inspired by his 3D adventures, including wall jumps, triple jumps, and ground pounds, and I think it's easy to see that they wanted to embrace the best of both dimensions. Exploration has been a defining element of 3D Mario since its inception, so that made the jump to 2D as well. There always were things to find in levels, hidden coins and 1-ups for example. NSMB still has those, of course, but also introduces a new kind of thing to find: star coins. 3 are hidden in each level, in places such as down pipes or up beanstalks, or maybe having a bit of challenging platforming associated with them. There's some secret exits located in a few levels too, just like Super Mario World. These are the hardest secrets to find, usually yielding the greatest rewards on the world map. Worlds in this game scroll left to right, just like the levels. They're essentially linear paths, but with star coins you can open paths to mushroom houses and new levels, and secret exits do too, along with cannons that launch you to later worlds. Of course, there's 8 worlds, but oddly enough, only 6 of them are actually required. 2 are basically bonus worlds, despite being part of the normal rotation of themes. Sort of inspired by Mario 3, we have grass, desert, beach, jungle, ice, mountain, sky, and Bowser. While I have a fondness for how this all works here, it's hard to deny that Mario World just does it better. The themes are more unique and creative, opening paths is more theatrical, and it actually tells you when to look for secret exits. In New, you kinda just have to logic and guess your way to finding where secret exits could be, and that makes some of them take way longer than they should.
That, or I'm coping with the fact that I'm bad at finding these and this is actually a compelling puzzle. Take your pick.
Pretty much every world contains a tower and a castle, acting as your mini-boss and final boss of each world. Your mini-bosses are just child abuse every time, nothing too special, but each castle has a totally unique boss.
Except for this guy.
So close. A giant mummy pokey, PD Piranha, I guess you shouldn't count either, my worst nightmare, and someone who looks strikingly similar to this guy. His sunglasses are cool though. Unique bosses might not seem that impressive, but the last time the series had them was Mario Land. Whether or not people were sick of the Koopalings, it was nice to see something different. They didn't learn this lesson for long. Of course, every new Mario brings with it some new power-ups. I feel like stuff like the Tanuki Leaf and Cape Feather are some of the most iconic, marketable parts of their respective games, hence why New really shoves it in your face. The Mega Mushroom makes you big.
You ever realize no one remembers this thing exists?
Yeah, this thing is just sorta underwhelming. There is some novelty to running through a level and destroying everything, but it appears 4 total times. Screw you! The power-up I think of with this game is the Blue Shell. Not named after the Mario Kart item, this item gives Mario a shell he can duck into, just like a Koopa's, letting you break blocks and kill enemies while keeping your momentum, and it lets you swim better, kinda like a frog suit. This thing is pretty cool, and I don't like it either. The problem I have with this thing is that when you reach running speed, you duck into the shell automatically, and it's really hard to get out when that happens.
So I like the third one, right? Why is there ominous silence?
That's a power down. The mini mushroom makes the physics really floaty and awkward. Mario bounces off of enemy heads now and has to ground pound to kill them. So, not really a good thing. It doesn't even give you an extra hit. What's the point? Well, in some levels, you see these little mini pipes, and down those you can find things like star coins. And after some boss fights, there are some pathways that can only be accessed by Mini Mario, leading to the 2 optional worlds.
I like the third one.
It's really interesting having this extra challenge element. I think it's a lot of fun. But it has its downsides. It can be kinda hard to actually get one, and sometimes the pipes just lead to coin areas, not substantial collectibles. And that really sucks when you're searching for a star coin or something. But overall, I think this shroom is great. Returning from Mario World is the item storage thing, and it's maybe a little overpowered. If you die in a level and you have a fire flower in storage, you can just get your fire flower out, hit the first item box, and then you get one back in storage. It feels a little, exploitative. Especially when this is the first game where getting hit with a fire flower doesn't immediately send you back to Small Mario. How did it take them that long to realize that makes more sense? But what use is weaponry if you have nothing to kill with it?
That feels like a sentence that'll put me on a list.
Obviously, this game features your regular mix of Mario enemies, like Buzzy Beetles. Nothing else matters! A lot of enemies make their 2D debuts here. Scuttlebugs, Moneybags, and Whomps appear here. Sorta like Mario 64, though Scuttlebugs really feel unique in this one. New enemies include Bruiser, who punches things, good for puzzles and such, Boos, who get larger and larger over time, a weird Bomb-Omb that has to be ignited, Spike, but he lives in Alaska, a Drybones who found a mushroom somewhere, a Goomba wearing a pumpkin, stacks of blocks who jump around, definitely not from Mario 3, Ravens who act similar to the bats from Mario World, who are also in the game, and Snailcorn. I like Snailcorn. Easily one of the most iconic aspects of this game are the dancing enemies. Throughout the game, a decent chunk of the music contains these vocal buzz, and every time you hear one, Goombas and power-ups hop, Koopas and Spiny spin around, etc. This might sound like it's mostly trivial, but adding a tiny amount of unpredictability to these basic enemies does a surprising amount for making them more of a threat. Sometimes a Koopa will move just enough so you miss your jump, a Goomba will jump into you, and it's actually really quite hard to predict it.
Or just, listen. Why didn't I think of that?
Along the way, there's a decent amount of new obstacles with unique mechanics. There's these rope platforms with different physics, same with these platforms you have to shuffle along. Some levels have these things that rotate when you push into them, kinda acting as one-way gates. Eels are terrifying. These platforms that give you a really big spinny jump. Levels where you ride Dory and Big Wiggler! These paddle platforms make their first non-Yoshi appearance here, snake blocks don't look weird and janky anymore, and a few other little things, like fireworks now giving toad houses depending on the last 2 digits of the timer. I'm sure there's more things I didn't bring up, but that just goes to show how much is going on. There's a level in World 8 where these meteor-looking things fall from the sky. That's neat. World 8 looks pretty normal at first, short if anything, especially since there's no secret exits here. However, once you reach the end of the castle, revealing that Bowser's skin got burned off in World 1, Dry Bowser is defeated by dropping him into the lava again. Did anyone expect this to really work? Surprise! A bridge appears and at least doubles the length of the world, leading to a bigger, more intimidating castle.
The hope here is that Mario will look at it and be too scared to enter, and yeah, it's effective! I'm going to World 3!
Dreadnought Galaxy, eat your heart out. Hey, what do you want? Alright, see ya. This Bowser fight is pretty uninteresting. Just throw a shell at Junior, hit the switch, and you're done. After beating the game, there's this code that makes the camera behave like Mario 1, and at any time while picking a file, you can hold some buttons to become Luigi.
This game doesn't have good cheat codes.
You can buy these different backgrounds for the bottom screen with excess star coins, and the file gets stars for various completion amounts. But who cares about some stupid Mario platformer when we have bomb sorting? This game features a huge selection of minigames, most of them returning from Mario 64 DS, but a few are new, including an entire multiplayer mode for them. Some of these honestly might be more iconic than the main game itself, like the aforementioned Sword or Splode, Wanted, Snowball Slalom, which I spent way too long playing, and the #1 way to get young children addicted to gambling, Luigi. And Luigi shouldn't be able to get away with that, so I challenge him to a duel. I don't have a lot to say about Mario vs. Luigi mode, but it's pretty cool. That's it.
New Super Mario Bros. Is everything that a return to 2D Mario needed to be. Full of new ideas, personality, and charm, it feels as unique as ever. Sure, not every part of it hits perfectly, but these levels are just so much fun to run through. And clearly, it worked, as this would become the best-selling DS game. 2D Mario was back, and unlike every other Nintendo franchise that makes a comeback, the wait for the next part wouldn't be long.
3 years later, in 2009, New Super Mario Bros. Wii entered the conversation. Or 2017 if you're an Android fan. In China. It was even such a big deal that they gave it a special red box, something that I don't think any other Wii game had. The game begins with Mario, Luigi, Irrelevant, and Blue Toad celebrating Peach's birthday by eating World 3 of Kirby's Epic Yarn. Or Sweet Sweet Galaxy, or this part of Toy Time Galaxy.
What?
Uh-oh! 6 people I don't care about! Then Peach gets kidnapped. Shocker. Wii is formatted similar to the original. 8 worlds, none being optional, with levels full of 3 star coins and secret exits, 1 tower, 1 castle with a boss, all with a 2.5D art style. However, that doesn't mean at all that it's the same. Why?
Pure, friendship-ruining chaos.
For the first time in Mario history, true multiplayer in the entire single-player campaign, with up to 4 people. Multiplayer exists as early as the original Mario 1, but it was just when one person dies, you swap to the other. Not here, it's all together. And it is a wild ride. I can guarantee that playing with anyone will result in fighting over power-ups, bouncing on each other's heads, knocking people into pits, and a 15% chance everyone is angry by the end.
Ask me how I know this.
Funny thing is, technically it makes the game easier, considering every time someone dies, they get put in a bubble and can come back to life. The only way to get booted from the level is for everyone to die, which is sorta rare. However, the game will not feel easier. Ever. but I'm not gonna focus on the multiplayer experience, mainly because someone might not make it. So what's new in this new? Okay, on the surface not much, but I swear there's more! This game features motion controls because, you know, prisms. There are a decent amount of uses for it, but the most important one is this. It's beautiful. Shaking the Wii remote in the air makes Mario twirl, slowing the fall a bit. This is everything! I love how this little thing makes the game feel. It's basically always useful and just makes things so much fun. I don't want to live in a world where this twirl doesn't exist.
So, turns out all that's different is that my doctor diagnosed me with moderate depression instead of mild.
You can also shake to spin jump. I don't know if this has any practical use whatsoever, but it's kind of fun. It's basically the same general template for worlds here with the same themes, but they're much more fleshed out here. Some worlds scroll vertically. World 3 has one where you have to hit a switch on the map to change the inside of a level, and they're overall much more interestingly designed, less linear in shape. There's even enemies that roam around parts of them, and if you collide with them, you have to beat them up and save Toad. For some reason. Sometimes a level that's already been beat will pop up with a Toad begging for help, and if you re-enter that level, they'll be in an item box near the start. If you carry Toad to the end of the level without killing them, you get some 1-ups. I rarely actually bothered with this, cause this game hurls 1-ups at you faster than I ever could. The enemy fights are more worthwhile, cause they give power-ups. Item storage works nothing like the previous game. Now, you can hold tons of each item collected from places like Toad houses, enemy encounters, fireworks, and more, and use them on the world map before entering. This solution is wonderful and forces you to think a lot more. You don't get that many items, so they're saved more for harder levels or when you're struggling, and on levels where you need something like a mini mushroom, instead of going and hunting for one, you can just grab one from here. It's great! You've probably already noticed the new power-ups in this menu, but if you haven't because you're just listening to this as background noise, that's okay. I'd do the same. The propeller mushroom turns the mid-air twirl into a shot upwards, and then you can drill back down, kinda like those spinny platforms from DS. This thing is alright, but it really thrives in more vertical levels like towers. Otherwise, it's not that good, because you can't keep any horizontal momentum with it. The Ice Flower also debuts here, and if you believe that, you haven't seen me make this joke before. It does work differently though, being essentially an alternative Fire Flower. The projectile doesn't bounce as far, and it moves slower.
I'm sure I'm the only person to ever notice that.
Instead, when the ice ball hits an enemy, it freezes them into an ice cube, and you can throw them at other enemies. It's one of the few ways to kill things like dry bones, has some puzzle-solving opportunities, it's pretty fun! Unfortunately, it's made almost entirely redundant by the penguin suit, which is quite literally just a better ice flower. But you get to look like this, so I forgive it. It adds more agile swimming, like Mario 3's frog suit, and this awesome sliding move, sort of like a retooled not garbage blue shell. It might just be the most versatile power-up in the series, which is probably why it feels so uncommon. Alongside these more traditional power-ups, Yoshi makes their grand return. While they're neat and all in Super Mario World, they really aren't all that useful. Here, Yoshi gains the flutter jump from Yoshi's Island, by extension giving this dinosaur some actual value.
Why was I so mean to Yoshi when writing this?
In multiplayer, each Yoshi is a different color, which is just such an adorable touch. Also returning from Super Mario World are the Koopalings. It might seem hard to believe now, but this really was a bit of a welcome throwback at the time. They'd only had like one major appearance since the Super Nintendo era.
I will confess to being a Koopaling fangirl, so I might be a little biased.
Here they are the bosses for most of the towers and castles. Once a relatively normal fight, often bringing back their familiar gimmicks, and then one where Kamek comes in and messes with things, before eventually becoming a tower boss himself. But at their core, all of these fights are pretty similar and sort of flawed. Once you stomp on them the first time, they do this thing where they go back and forth in their shell, then pop back up before attacking again. It is incredibly easy to basically stun lock them, and effectively results in all of these fights being total pushovers. It's a shame, because otherwise, I think they're pretty cool. Thankfully, bosses aren't a total wash. A few worlds have special surprise airship levels, sorta like Mario 3's airships, ending in fights against Bowser Jr. in his clown car. All 3 of them are unique, pretty difficult, and, best of all, can't be cheesed.
Speaking of cheese, doesn't this guy's head kind of look like cheese?
Open your mind.
New enemies include the Bramball, who is somehow important enough to star in the movie, penguins at least a fifth cooler than these dorks, cute fish, demon fish, a large Goomba the size of a small Goomba, intercontinental ballistic missile, goofy piranha plants, murderous ghost cubes, and rats. Alongside them, plenty of new obstacles and gimmicks dot these levels, including a decent few featuring motion controls. There's some screw platforms you have to shake to rotate, causing things to move in the level temporarily, and plenty of platform types where tilting the remote causes it to tilt right along the track, etc. The element of actually tilting the controller does make these segments a little more chaotic to control, which is actually pretty fun. Aside from these, there's a few other new ideas, quite a few unique uses of darkness, a fast-paced ride on a skeleton coaster, a slower-paced ride on these big green friends, and an even slower-paced ride trying to make sure too many things don't end up on this raft. There's a level in World 8 where these meteor-looking things fall from the sky. That's neat. There isn't a colossal amount of new ideas here, but they do a pretty good job making sure levels don't feel too much like each other, often helped by bringing back the good ideas from NSMB. If you happen to be struggling with a level and die 8 times, this green block will show up and make damn sure you know it has. This block activates the Super Guide, where Luigi takes over and beats the level for you. As a trade-off, you don't get any collectibles, and the level doesn't really count as beat, it just lets you move on. This feature is only really for the most casual of players, but in that situation, I think it's pretty good. Especially considering Luigi shows you how to do it. That might be enough for you to learn how to get through yourself. Once Mario or Virtual Luigi makes their way to World 8, it kinda looks short again. But unlike before, there's no trick, the levels are just really close together.
Boring. Efficient, but boring.
The castle here is pretty standard, nothing too special, and neither is the Bowser fight. Just kidding! This is a really, really cool final boss segment, literally blasting through the walls of the castle. A fantastic, fun spectacle. Structural damage will do that to you. Now that Bowser is dead, surprise! World 9 features levels that are only unlocked by collecting all of the star coins in a world, built to be the most challenging levels in the game. Personally, I think these could have been a little harder to help keep them more memorable, but they're still solid. The other unlocks from star coins are right back in World 1 in Peach's castle, where you can spend them on the most interesting of things, MP4 files. These videos show a bunch of things, such as showing where secrets are, or just cool gameplay.
Nintendo will go to great lengths to make damn sure that you will beat New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
And once again, this game includes the file stars as completion marks, ending up with 5 once you've beaten every level and found every star coin. However, for some godforsaken reason, they made it that the stars have a shine effect, but only if the Super Guide block never appears. So if you die 8 times in any level, you're just screwed. Cool, thanks! Oh yeah, there's multiplayer modes too. Free-for-all is kinda pointless, considering it's just what every multiplayer game turns into anyway, and Coin Battle is better, I guess, because it has some unique courses, but yeah, it's just nothing that special. That's a shame.
New Super Mario Bros. Wii may not be as fresh and new as DS, but I think it does a good job of still having its own identity. It may lack the new original bosses and multitudes of new ideas that DS had, but I think the level design is more varied and interesting. Both of these games still have a compelling reason to play them, even today. The second New Super Mario Bros. Was great, so how about the second New Super Mario Bros?
Huh. Once again, 3 years after the previous, New Super Mario Bros. 2 begins with Mario and Luigi abandoning Peach. Y'all were asking for that one. So, why the hell is it called this?
Cause counting is hard, man.
So, this game drops a lot of the stuff we did new. Multiplayer, the air twirl, Yoshi, the better world maps, etc. And is much more heavily based on the DS game. Hence, New Super Mario Bros. 2, a direct sequel to the original. This is still stupid. This game's main gimmick and the theme revolves around coins. Yeah, those things that have been scattered all over levels since the start.
On the surface, that sounds like a really stupid gimmick. However, I will be the first person on Earth to try and defend it.
Nearly everything new in this game revolves around collecting more and more coins, and it really does give the game a different vibe. The title screen, and visible on the map, is a counter of every coin you've ever collected, across files and everything. The more you collect, the more the title screen changes, eventually getting statues and everything. As well, every individual level has a high score for how many coins you've gotten in it, and that alone was enough to motivate me to want to grab every coin I can. I don't know how true this is, but it certainly feels like there's a lot more coins than normal in these levels, especially helped by things like the gold flower. It's basically a remixed fire flower, one that can kill more enemies, such as boos, and killing them gives you extra coins directly. As well, doing anything that'd build up to giving a 1-up normally, like stomping on a bunch of enemies in a row, also gives extra coins. And the projectile turns brick blocks into coins. This power-up is really fun, and really powerful, which is likely why it only lasts one level. You turn into fire once you exit. There's another temporary coin power-up too, oddly enough. 10 coin blocks, a staple of the franchise since the very beginning, now turn into these golden blocks once you get all the coins, becoming a hat. If you hit these from the side or ground pound them though, they just spew some coins like a fountain, which is pretty annoying. As Mario runs, it gives 100 coins, and it disappears once all of those are gone, or if you get hit. This thing's pretty neat too, it's cool to have a temporary extra hit. Not everything is about money, however.
That is a lie. Give me your wallet.
As we have the return of the... whatever the hell this thing is actually called? Okay. Raccoon Mario is back from Mario 3, except it also appeared in 3D Land, kinda, so... It functions basically the exact same from 3, but it's still quite fun here. There's a lot of ways it lets you access sets of coins, too.
See, it always circles back.
Literally. These golden rings now appear in levels, which activate this sort of gold rush. That's not an official name, but it sounds like one, doesn't it? A bunch of enemies turn gold in this form, and they give extra coins when you stomp them, but most notably Koopa shells now leave coins trails, allowing you to rack up a lot of wealth. And if you're looking for even more coins, there's these roulette blocks that give them as well. Okay, enough coins. What else new is there? There's piranha plants that make me question what the hell they actually are normally. Urchins but small, and big boos. The Koopalings return here, but they do have new fights, mostly, and Reznor is back. That's neat. The Boss are still here, but oddly enough, they went and added them to more songs, and it really made the music hard to enjoy. They work on happy, bright theme levels, but in the castles, that just feels wrong. But otherwise, that's pretty much it.
I'd go back to talking about coins if I could.
Oh, they replaced Super God with an overpowered raccoon form. That's gotta be new, right? Damn it. The first level in World 6 has a level where these meteor-looking things fall from the sky. That's neat. Wait, World 6? Unlike the original, this game's side worlds aren't regular numbered ones, they're Mushroom and Flower World. I prefer to treat them as bonus worlds, but it'd probably just be better to have 8 worlds normally. You get to these through cannons, which now actually have some fun gameplay to them. Back to World 6, I'm never gonna get used to saying that, it's pretty standard. Maybe more thematically diverse than normal, but nothing particularly groundbreaking. The final castle is pretty cool though. It's a full castle that then transitions into a section where you have to move strategically to ensure the Koopalings don't turn you to stone by ducking behind cover. This is actually really quite fun, and not particularly easy either. See? They're capable of new ideas. Sometimes.
One face-off with Bowser, duh, and we get our real finale. A very, very long climb on volatile platforms, making sure the big guy doesn't slap the platform you're trying to land on. And then he dies and all. Post-game brings another special world, World Star, which requires 90 star coins to enter. There's a decent amount of pretty cool levels here. Definitely some of the more fun ideas this game has to offer. The final castle brings back the Koopaling Medusa again, and the final boss. Virtually unchanged in its entirety. It doesn't really work as well the second time around. Oh yeah, and there's moon coins here instead of star coins. Because they can. You can play as Luigi the same way as in the original, if you wish, and there's file stars once again, including bringing back the stupid sparkles thing, but now the block appears in only 5 deaths. Thanks! Outside of the main game, we finally get a truly substantial side mode, Coin Rush. This is all about going through a set of 3 levels to generate as many coins as possible, and fast. The levels are modified for more opportunities to do so, as well as having a short timer to force optimization. You also get 1 golden flower per run, and you have to decide best where to use it. This is a very engaging mode, easy to get sucked into. I'm not amazing at it, but I did get a score I was pretty proud of. I never bought it myself, but there was a decent chunk of DLC released for this, which had unique course designs. Honestly, Coin Rush is a highlight of the experience.
New Super Mario Bros. 2 is not a bad game at all. It's a completely competent Mario game, and in a vacuum, I think it's great. The problem is, it relies so heavily on the coin stuff that it kind of forgets to do anything else new. The coin stuff is great and helps the game feel different. I will maintain that this game does have a distinct identity, but it doesn't save it from feeling a little too reliant on just one gimmick. So, how do we improve the next one? By releasing it 3 months later.
Quick, we need a launch title for our brand new console, that'll do!
Releasing with the Wii U in November 2012, New Super Mario Bros. U continues where New Super Mario Bros. Wii left off. So does that make this the 4th, 2nd, or 3rd game in the series?
Does this game retcon 2, or is it a separate timeline?
So, take a wild guess what happens here. Boom! Variety!
Since this game is back in the Wii timeline, the air twirl, 4-player multiplayer, all that good stuff is right back. And they even improved on the world maps even further. It's all one interconnected map now, like how Mario World did it. They're all good food themes too, again like World. Where there we had Donut Plains, Vanilla Dome, and Chocolate Island, here we have Soda Jungle, Rock Candy Mines, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, none of them really feel foody. Only Layer Cake Desert really goes the extra mile to look like a cake. It's a shame because I think it's a really great idea, but the interconnected worlds are still great nonetheless. Secret exit levels now lead between worlds, you don't use cannons, and the way they tie worlds together is really cool. The new power-up is kinda an illusion of Mario World 2, now that I think about it. Where there was the gliding cape, now we have the gliding flying squirrel. This is one of my favorite Mario power-ups. It's super fun to run through levels with this thing. Shaking with this thing while gliding also gives a big burst of height, making it just really versatile for getting around. Makes me realize how 3 of these games in a row heavily feature flight-based power-ups. Huh. This is basically the only new normal power-up, other than a super version of this Acorn, but alongside the return of Yoshi, we got new versions. Children. Baby Yoshis are carried through levels and activated with the shake. Pink being another damn flight power we really couldn't resist, huh? This blue one blows bubbles that can be jumped on and turn enemies into coins, and these gold ones that act as light sources. The pink and blue ones are found on the map and can be brought pretty much anywhere, even through multiple levels, unlike the normal dinos. I love these little things, they're adorable. Speaking of adorable, this is a perfect creature. Nabbit sometimes appears to steal items from Toads in a level you've previously beat. You have to run and catch them, you get some items, that's it. So anyways, isn't Nabbit cute? The item storage is different again. This time it's just a limited list, which I think is just a wild downgrade from Wii, especially when Nabbit gives so many items. To be fair, they are often the most powerful of items, but, like, they could have just given you less. Would have been a good opportunity to make the propeller and penguin from Wii actually relevant, since they are in this game, just only in the Special World's Toad houses. Spoilers, by the way.
If extra flight isn't enough for you, there's one more way to make things easier. Why have you forsaken me?
It's a Wii U launch title. It needed some weird gamepad gimmick. Boost mode kinda adds a way for 5-player multiplayer. The gamepad player uses the touchscreen to do things like freeze enemies, reveal 3-up moons, and most importantly, place blocks for the others to jump on. You can build up a combo by jumping on the blocks, which eventually drops this star, letting the boost mode player kill enemies and break blocks. I've never actually played this mode the intended way. I just keep the gamepad beside me while playing and use it to cheat whenever I need to. So I guess that's neat.
Oh, thank God! Can I talk about Lemmy now?
Bosses are pretty similar to how things were in Wii, with the castles full of Koopalings. Some have different fights, and they're in a different order, like putting Lemmy first, which I think makes a lot of sense considering his attack is mostly harmless. Airships have fights against Bowser Jr. and his clown car again too, and they're quite fun. There's some brand new fights too, against a big ol' sumo bro and Kamek, but otherwise, yeah, this is what you'd expect. There's a decent chunk of new normal enemies though, including remember those Super Koopa things from World? That again. Wait, Boomrats came from this game? I thought they were from World too. Robofish, Homing Heralds, Round Thwomp, Fliprus, who I love, and Dragoneel, who Ubisoft loves. These I think are some great new enemies. A lot are pretty memorable. And also Fliprus, look at Fliprus, I love this thing. There's green coins now.
What?!
There's a level where you climb a beanstalk, one with this incredible painted art style, and there's a level in World 8 where these meteor-looking things fall from the sky. World 8 isn't just a lava hell, it's Peach's lava hell.
Well, like a good change of scenery from time to time.
The final boss is in quite a few parts, starting with this long motion-controlled elevator upwards, then Bowser Jr. tries to crush Mario, then big. Okay, that's it. Other than World 9, it's pretty cool actually, and this Toad House. It's a stats room. Side modes include Coin Battle returning, with a yawn, Boost Rush, this weird mode where you try to get to the end of auto-scrollers as fast as possible by collecting coins, and a very substantial challenge mode. There's a boatload of variety here, medals for doing better that are actually pretty tough to get, challenges that are genuinely quite hard. This is a great side edition. Not as addictively engaging as Coin Rush, but great extra content.
They did it again.
Okay, so before we go any further, let's clarify what this game actually is. Because, based on this copy, it might look like a separate game, but it was always meant to be DLC for NSMBU. They even released a version that had both on the same disc. Why do I own so many copies of this game? And that's why New Super Luigi U is so similar to Mario U. The big difference is that every level has been replaced, and the level timer is always 100 seconds. So you have to be much more urgent when looking for stuff like star coins, because you do not have much time. It's a neat difference, but at times the urgency doesn't really kick in, it just sort of feels like short levels. Every level has a hidden Luigi somewhere, and those are pretty fun to spot, and somehow there's a new enemy. There has never been a big Eep Cheep before.
Should have stayed that way.
The most noticeable gameplay change is that the physics are similar to how Luigi plays in stuff like Galaxy or Mario 2, and it takes some serious getting used to. It feels powerful to be able to always jump higher, and remove Mario from existence. The logo doesn't include Mario, the game doesn't include Mario as a playable character. Instead, Nabbit is playable, except Nabbit can't use power-ups, nor take damage from enemies. There's a level in World 8 where these meteor-looking things fall from the sky.
They did it again.
Why do I own so many copies of this game? 6 years later, both Mario U and Luigi U were bundled together for Switch, featuring a ton of minor changes I don't care to cover. And a brand new playable character, Toadette! She's kinda another easy mode character, and has a brand new power-up, the Super Crown, which turns her into Peachette.
I lost mine, had to improvise.
Oh yeah, boost mode and some of the extra stuff is removed in this game, since there's no gamepad. Can I stop talking about Mario U now?
Man, you're looking things the world, eh?
And that is New Super Mario Bros. Excluding Mario Run and Mario Maker because, no. I will always be there to defend these, and say that these games are not bad. Individually.
But games don't exist in a vacuum, and there's no point in not acknowledging how damn similar all these games are. They have their own identities, especially the first two, but these ones really do feel like rehashes of the originals. Combine that with releasing closer together than ever, and of course things got oversaturated and annoying. 3D Land and World being criticized for being too much like 2D Mario didn't exactly help that either. Mario was stagnating, and we got sick of it.
After 2013's releases, we waited 4 years for another Mario game, 10 years for another 2D Mario. We got games that truly evolved and pushed the series forward again. So we hope Nintendo knows to not take advantage of Mario, and to put the love and care in that makes these games truly great. Because in a world where we only got the first 2 New Super Mario Bros. Games, I think we'd appreciate them a lot more. But then we wouldn't have Nabbit! And I can't live like that!